Good morning and welcome to Sports on Loveworld. With me this morning is a very interesting panel. I have Manny and Larry and Stephen. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
And welcome to the show. I hope you had a good week this week.
It's been a very good week.
As you all know, the Australian Open is upon us, and it started with very interesting matches, and we had the losses, the giant killings, and what have you. And to start us off, we're going to be talking about the girl of the moment. We're going to watch and see what happened when Konta met Williams. A giant killing indeed.
Game, set, match, no. 3 sets for love. 6-love, 6-4, 6-1.
Well, very interesting matches indeed. I think we'll first start with the first giant killing, Konta, the new girl about town. So much has been said about her, and we know that Joe Dory said that she does want her to be the first woman to break her record and going to the quarterfinals of the Grand Slam. What do you think are her chances? We'll start with you, Larry.
Well, for me, I don't think it was a giant killing. Because, like we said earlier, Venus has just been on a steady decline all along. But the girl played really, really well. And I think she could go as far as she wants to. Because we can only see Serena there. So anybody that can be steady and keep improving, she could go as far as she wants to.
I mean, do you think, he's saying that she played very well. I mean, I watched that match, and at times I just winced for Venus. And I thought, if I'd been Venus, I would have retired halfway through. She's clearly struggling. What are your thoughts on that?
Venus has been struggling for some time now with that injuries and knee injury. She, takes some time out, she comes back, and then she underperforms. Like Larry said, Konta played well, but I think Venus didn't come with an A game. And
that's because the other person makes you not come with your A game. Because the other person's played better.
Do you think that was the case? Venus was heavily strapped. Venus wasn't covering. One of the first things I noticed was she wasn't even covering the court the way she normally does.
I don't think she has been covering it for a while now. At least for a few months, she hasn't been covering the court as good as she used to. Because I remember when she played Serena sometime last year, she wasn't.
Yeah, her performance has deteriorated over the last couple of years.
But what are the causes of it? Did you see her leg heavily strapped? Sometimes she could barely get herself to even go. And at times you thought, was it fair to bring such a game onto the court?
But I think it's a decision that she has to make herself. Looking at the way, it has been a steady decline, as we all said. But I think it's high time she has to call it quits. Yeah, because it's not reflecting at all. And you can see that anytime she comes on the court, we are not seeing the same venues that we've seen the previous years. And you can see that she's carrying a baggage. So I think it's a decision. It's very, she likes the game. She's very passionate about the game. But right now, looking at her coming back from injury on and off, I think she should just stick with her record. She has been one of the greatest tennis players, and she will always be remembered in the Hall of Fame. She should just call it quits. That is.
So
I think she can improve her game.
Yeah, viewers at home, what do you think? The guys here are saying Venus is in a steady decline. Should Venus be calling it quits? Should she maintain the pride that she has in the records that she's broken so far, and in the stance that she's made in women's tennis by resigning or you know, making sure that, you know, she calls it a day while still at the top? Give us a ring. The number's on the screen. You can call us straight away and let us know your views. I mean, in terms of Konta, let's talk about Konta. One of the things that, I mean, a lot of Venus fans thought about was that, well, Venus was not on her game, so Konta had a lucky break. Do you think it was a lucky break? She's on the fourth. She's gone to win the fourth round now, a game away from reaching the quarterfinals.
I don't think it's a lucky break, because since the start of the Australian Open, I've been watching her game, and I've seen that from every game, it has been a very steady progress. You can see her progression. You can not just picture her even on one game, because she keeps on improving in every game. So I don't see it as just a one-off. I think she can go far. Right now, she's made history, and I'm very optimistic that she can make it to the semi-finals.
When it comes to British women's tennis, I'm a cynic. I disagree with him. I think that she's caught a lucky break. Venus has not been on a game. She's, you know, capitalised that on, you know, to her advantage. Last 16, she's reached the last 16, first British woman to do that in a long time. She's not going to be able to get into the last 8. The top 8 is too far reach for her. I don't see Konta getting into the top 8. Last 16, she'll be knocked out.
I think that's not a lucky break. You make what you get.
Hey, have we followed Konta? I mean, Konta was clearly struggling last year, had a horrible year last year, horrible 2014. It was terrible to watch her. She couldn't make it past Eastbourne. I mean, Eastbourne is normally one that everybody wins, and she struggled with Eastbourne. Wimbledon, she was dire in Wimbledon. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I think the big thing that gave her the uplift was the confidence, was the Venus game. But as we said, Venus was not on her game.
I don't know if Venus was not on her game, because we just watched Fernando Verdasco. How old is he? 33, 34? Yeah. Playing against Nadal, and he won the game. Roger Federer is almost 33.
Venus is battling a debilitating condition. That's the other thing.
If she's not fit enough, she won't get on the court.
No.
So you take advantage of the weakness of your opponents, and she needs to improve her game. She needs to serve better. So the other girl made sure that that wasn't going to happen. And then she played better than I don't agree with the fact that she was sick. She wasn't on her A game. If she wasn't on her A game, she wouldn't have even registered for Australian Open in the first place.
I think there's something there. When you talk about that, it talks about the fact that the women's game is really crying out for people who are going to come forth. And even a half-baked Venus will do for the women's game at the moment. You know, people would rather watch a half-baked Venus than have some unknown. Yes.
Well, I don't. The US ladies is good. I think Venus is good, but on that day, it seemed after getting to the fourth round, it just seemed that injury was just getting a bit too much. I think Konta was battling with a wounded dog, and she took advantage of it.
Yes.
In the last 16, I don't see her getting past.
But you see, I've watched her game. I've seen that she's made a lot of progress compared to the previous and this Grand Slam. And I said she improves in every game.
Okay, let's take it this way. I mean, one of the other things that have come up is the Britishness or the Australianness of her. I mean, part of the critics have said it's that Australian thing in her that spurred her on, because obviously I think the British-born, British-bred have found it very difficult to go past.
Well, you can say, in a way, you can say she had home advantage. The crowd was cheering on. She's Sydney-born. She's Australian-born British. So she's in her hometown. You know, she's almost obligated to put a performance in.
Not a plastic, then.
It's not a plastic.
Well, I'm on the
it's amazing. I mean, when we want to call people plastic and when we don't. Obviously, now she's putting us in the record books. Yes.
I think Konta sort of epitomizes how, you know, how weak the British ladies' tennis is. She's British #1, world #40.
But then she seems to be doing half of what she's doing, much better than say where Heather Watson was. A while back we were shouting about Heather Watson. Everyone wanted to talk about it. She was the next best thing that was going to happen. She disappeared. It might be that we see Konta this year and we don't see her again.
Or it might be that we have to go out and bring people and make them a bit more plastic.
On that ironic note, we'll talk about Andy Murray. I mean, again, the song comes again. It was lovely to see his cheerleaders. I saw those guys who were cheering him on and singing him on, and I think that sort of brought him a bit of home comfort. But other than that, he sailed through the first 4 rounds, and again, I think the battles for him will begin in the semis, really. Do we see him having difficulties before the semis?
Andy Murray.
To be honest, I think he could go as far as he wants to because Nadal isn't there. He can beat Verdasco. The only people he should be worried about, actually, 3 people: Wawrinka, Federer, obviously, and Djokovic. But then if his wife gives in early, he's going to. That's what he said. That's always a good excuse, isn't it? It's always a good excuse. Well, the other excuse he could have is that he wants his son or daughter to be, the day he wakes up, he's born to a dad who's an Australian Open. Sure. How great would that be? Well, the child would even remember that.
Well, the child can always say, I was born the year my dad won the Australian Open. And that's such a great thing, isn't it?
Well, it's still 2016. And the child could still say, I was born the day my father won Wimbledon. The same year.
It still works the same.
Well, in terms of the Australian Open, Andy Murray's been so unlucky. 4 finals. He's got to 4 finals and lost them all. He's lost 3 finals to Djokovic.
You think that is him being unlucky?
It's just unlucky.
But then if you think of being unlucky,
he's lost tie breaks. He's lost it by narrow wins.
I don't agree.
But then if you think of him being unlucky, you need to think of Tim Henman. How many semis did Tim Henman get to? How many finals did he get to? And he never won a Grand Slam.
He never won a Grand Slam.
So is it something that we can say somehow sort of a British heritage or the other? Because
I don't think this is anybody being unlucky. It's just the opponent you meet on the day. If they're better than you, they're psychologically better than you, mentally they're better than you, and then talent-wise, they're better than you. There's just no way you're going to win. You could go there 20 times and still lose all 20. It's not about you. Of course, it's gone there 4 times. We can't say 4 times unlucky. No. There's something the opponent is doing better than you.
Yeah, Djokovic just clearly got a step up from. Because I found out the other day they're only a week apart. They're actually both born on May 8, 1987.
Yes.
Yeah, Andy Murray's only a week older than Djokovic.
But then those 2 they trained together in Spain. They know each other. They've played with each other from the time they were children. So there is that history between them, and the rivalry between them. It's almost like a Nico and a Hamilton, isn't it? They've known each other. They know each other's weaknesses and strengths. And somehow Djokovic has managed to capitalize on those weaknesses.
And I think that's because he's more talented.
Djokovic definitely has the winning mentality. Djokovic has the winning mentality.
It's a natural-born talent.
Let's talk about Federer, the old horse in the race. I mean, he's refusing to go away. He's refusing. Leighton Hewitt bowed out. And let's talk about Hewitt before we talk about Federer. I mean, what a great sportsman he's been.
Yes.
I remember the first match he ever beat Andre Agassi at 16. I was watching that and I thought, who's that? And he had very long hair and he was going for it. And we've seen Leighton Hewitt in and about the tour for a very long time, and he finally said goodbye. Will he be missed?
He will be, because he brings a lot of joy to the court, and then he's very, very graceful. Whether he wins or whether he loses, almost like Roger is, and he's always smiling. I like him.
Staying positive.
He will be dearly missed.
So at that end, when we know that Leighton Hewitt said goodbye to the tour, he will be involved in tennis in the periphery, but it was indeed a very great moment when he said goodbye. We'll definitely miss Leighton Hewitt. Now we'll talk about another great who's refusing to go away. We've said, of course, the old horse in the race, Roger Federer. Does he still have his spunk? The number's on the line. Do give us a ring if you think he's still got the fight in him and he can give the young guys a run for their money. Guys, what you think?
I think, because with that question, I remember last year, Andrew, I think during the U.S. Open or Wimbledon. He said we shouldn't write Federer off, and Federer has got 5 years tennis in him to deliver, and this is no exception what we've seen in the Australian Open.
And he's changed his coach as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
He has a new coach.
And he has more children.
Djokovic has given back. So we never know.
More children, more mouths to feed.
I mean,
more. I think a bigger reason to play well and earn
but
money.
He's been playing well. I think where he finds a challenge is when he plays Wawrinka and Djokovic. With the likes of Andy Murray, he could beat him because Andy doesn't try to close up the game very quickly, and that's his challenge. With the other guys, he finds it easier to play, but when he playing Djokovic or Wawrinka, because these guys are good, back there, in front, everywhere, it's a challenge for him.
The Wawrinka argument is almost the same argument that you'd give. I think we've got a call on the line. We'll get back to the Djokovic, Wawrinka. Good morning, you're on Loveworld TV.
Hello.
Hello. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, hello. My name is David and I'm calling from Kent.
What are your thoughts this morning?
Yeah, hello. My name is David. I'm calling from Kent. I wanted to ask, is it possible, do you think that Serena Williams likely to go ahead and win Grand Slam again?
Is it possible for you to switch off your set at home because we're getting a lot of feedback?
Hello?
Is it possible for you to switch off your set? We're getting a lot of feedback. Hello? I think we've lost that caller there.
But yeah, coming back to Roger Federer, I think Australian Open is one of his best Grand Slams. He's won it 4 times. The last couple of times he's been unlucky. He's reached semi-finals, finals, and I think this year we'll be up there. I think it will be Djokovic and Federer in the finals.
But then if we talk about, let's talk about the Wawrinka Djokovic argument. It's very much like a Wawrinka Federer argument. It's almost like a Murray. I think we've got another caller on the line. Good morning, you're on Loveworld TV.
Hello, it's David calling again.
Hi, David. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I was just wondering whether you think Serena Williams will go on to the Grand Slam
This year.
You know, looking at her first book, like, well, out of
David, we'll have to cut your call there. There's quite a lot of feedback coming back. I think what David wanted to ask was he wanted to talk about Roger Federer, about Serena Williams.
If she can win all 4 this year.
If she can win all 4. I mean, last year was so disappointing.
I think
she lost in the semis. And
I think it's quite possible because if she wins the Australian Open and she stays fit, she could dominate all through the year, just the same way Djokovic has done.
Yeah.
And female tennis, yes, there are people coming up, but then that serve that she has, I'm not sure there are a lot of people that could return.
And it's the mental strength with Serena. I think half the time, I think sometimes Serena, just the way she looks at you before you even begin to serve. That's why people she breaks you on your serve.
I think that's the Mike Tyson effect, where you've lost the fight before you've got in the ring.
I agree.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. But we'll wrap up on the tennis now and just talk about in the women's, who do we think is going to go through? I mean, David's already asked that question. Do we think Serena's going to through? But who are the contenders for this year?
I think it's Serena for me.
Yeah.
Serena.
For me, I'm calling her same as it was last year. It's going to be Serena Williams versus Sharapova in the finals. That's the way I see it.
Well, if it's Serena versus Sharapova, I would want Sharapova to win. Because it's just too much.
Did you root for her last year?
She's been beaten so many times.
against Williams.
But we shouldn't look at sentiments here.
Yeah, but then that's like saying you want
we're looking at
Murray to
performance,
beat
but at the end of the day, one person has to choose who they have to choose. For me, every time, I'll choose Serena, but for this one, I think I'll go for Sharapova.
No, I mean in terms of if you're a tennis lover and you want a good game where you're going to have those powerful serves, you're going to have beautiful returns, long rallies, Sharapova is not going to do it for you.
No,
But
I
think
prefer
it will make
Williams
for an
versus Kitova.
entertaining game, though. Sharapova versus Serena Williams. It will make for a very entertaining final. And I think for the men's final, I'd like to see Djokovic and Wawrinka, because that's the only guy that can beat Djokovic.
Djokovic, Wawrinka.
I want to see Murray get to the finals again and see try to change his fate. I mean, for the sake of British tennis, please, please, Murray, please, Murray.
And Stephen?
Federer and Djokovic.
Federer and Djokovic. Well, guys, there you have it. They've said what they would like to see. You have a chance as well to tell us what you'd want to see, who you'd want to see on the finals. The number's on the line, on the screen. Do ring us if you want to let us know what your thoughts are. And we're going to be moving on now to athletics. Much has been said about athletics in the past few weeks. We've had the Russian doping. We've had the Serbco doubters saying, is he ready to make it? Let's hear what he had to say with regards to the latest on doping.
I can learn from the past, but I can't change the past. My responsibility now is to make those changes that help rescue the trust of the sport and leave systems in place. And unless we've got those systems in place, we will not get the trust back. But I can't sit here and tell you that this is, you know, a 6-week, 6-month, even 6-year process. It may well take longer than I'm going to be there as president.
Well, there's something that happens when you come into a powerful position and the pressures pile on. He's gone grey-haired overnight. He's got a grey beard. I mean, I noticed that and I thought, okay, I saw that happening with Obama. His hair suddenly went silver white. And it's happening to Serbco. The pressures are piling on him. Doping allegations left, right and center. I think people are beginning to lose some confidence in him, lose confidence in whether he's able to go through and do this. One of the things that was said in the last few weeks was, let's get rid of all the records that have been broken and bring in new records, start afresh, have the slate clean. What do you think of that, guys?
That's absolute nonsense.
That's preposterous.
That's
Complete preposterous.
Well, firstly,
Why
I think
is
there
that?
are double standards. Because this guy was a vice president when all this was going on. So the same way Blatter was annihilated because he's the president and everybody said there's no way things could go on if you're not there. This guy was a vice president. He knows what was going on. He can't say, no, I was different. No, they all know what's going on.
He's culpable.
He's
He
culpable.
is, absolutely.
And even the WADA report, even WADA did admit that what he knew that there was something going on. But one thing that you have to bear in mind is, I always said it the previous week is, okay, he is in a position of power, vice president, right? They even queried him about he used his influence in getting the game to
the Nike
London
deal.
to the door.
the Nike deal.
Yeah.
Okay. That means he was in a position to do something about it.
I mean, one of the things that happens is that, for instance, like we've seen with Congress, with Parliament, very little is done by one man. A lot of the time, there are many players in the game.
Absolutely.
You sort of get to be the voice. He could have known about it, but maybe he was powerless to do anything about it. And maybe sometimes you think, let me become the president, then maybe I'll have more time and more, I'll have, well, more scope to deal with this issue. Could that have been his case?
I don't think that would have been it. If you want to make a change, whilst you are in that office, start making those changes. Then people will have more confidence in you.
Or
You don't
start
have
voicing out.
Voicing out. You don't have to become the president because you were under that umbrella. It did not happen whilst you were not. You knew everything that was going on.
You're part of that tenure.
Exactly.
So what are we calling for? Are we then calling for, you know, the clean out that FIFA has had?
Oh, yes.
Let's clean out, let's start afresh, start new records, new body,
I don't think we can start new records.
new rules,
because
new everything. What are we advocating for
I think
here?
an overhaul of the IAAF is needed, but scrap the records. That's ridiculous.
The thing is, I don't think you can stop doping in athletics because coaches need to make money off of their athletes. The guys in the regulatory body, some of them are not very honest. I don't think we clean it out. You could try as much as possible, but we can't clean it out completely.
But then if we talk about scrapping records, somebody was saying earlier on, one of the guys was saying earlier on before we started the show, that if you scrape the records, what you're in danger of doing is, what wasn't a doping allegation, say in the 1960s or in the 1950s, goes as well. Those people at that point were running clean at that standard, and it's unfair to penalize their records and unfair to write off their names and remove them off of the history books. So where do we go from here? If we're saying the records are not going to go, how do we go about this, and how do we make sure the perpetrators are punished?
I mean, perpetrators should be punished. They've launched an investigation. They found, Russia was heavily involved in it. There are a lot more nations. I mean, Turkey's come up now. There's a lot more nations, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Great Britain in there too, because, I mean, over the years we've had a few athletes, Linford Christie for one, and I just don't see, I agree with Larry, I just don't see how they can eradicate the sport.
It's not possible.
It has come to stay for good.
I mean,
I think one of the things they need to learn to
I'll say
live
for
with,
good.
one of the things that have been said in terms of living with this allegation, with the doping, is that live with it, try and do whatever you can, but don't try and rewrite the history books or try and clean it out. It's impossible. And I mean, it's interesting that you say you wouldn't be surprised to see Great Britain in it as well, because the more advanced the nation is, the more advanced technology there is a greater scope for cheating as well, because when the scientists get advanced, the fraudsters get advanced as well. So it's always a matching game, and it is going to be really, really impossible. Let's talk about Seb Coe. Do you think he should stay or get rid?
To be honest, I think he should stay, only because I can't actually see anybody beyond Seb Coe that's going to do a better job. If you don't have a better contender, you can't get rid of what you have.
No.
So right now, I think as a person, he's a likable
I think
person.
it doesn't really bother me who is there or who isn't there, because it's an institutional problem. Yeah. Just the way.
But then one of the issues that are there, Seb Coe represents Britain. Well, he is British and it's very hard. But one of the things that Britain has always been challenged for and criticized for was their life bans. They were the only country that sort of imposes life bans, and he's pushing for life bans in his tenure. Should he be pushing for that? Should someone be banned for life, or everybody deserves a second chance?
I think the life bans will work.
It will work.
It will work, because if you start giving people life bans, it will deter them from doing certain things. But then there's some situations where you have to discuss and investigate properly, especially for the younger athletes.
Yeah.
And you know what, as we said, it's become such a big money thing. There's so much money involved. Younger athletes can be tricked into doing it, and if you impose a life ban, you don't give anybody a second chance.
Yeah.
And sometimes people, I always go back to the example of Dwayne Chambers. He went into it, but there were big players who were behind him saying, you can do this, we want you to do this. They stood to benefit. These players are not only these athletes don't only have their parents as guardians. They've got coaches, they've managers, they've psychologists, they've nutritionists, all of whom are making a living from that person. And it's in their gain for that person to win. So by imposing a life ban, are you really punishing that person for life for a mistake of adults?
I think you should. A life ban on the athletes, a life ban on the coaches, because they can't come back and work. But then you must investigate extensively before you impose that life ban.
If you the thing is, investigations have been done. And athletes will tell you, a young 17, 18-year-old athlete who's still green in the face. I mean, if you look at us, when we were 17, 18, we were not handling millions of dollars. We're not handling hundreds of thousands of dollars. And all of a sudden, you've got this money, you've got a manager, you've got this, you just had your parents to account for. And all of a sudden, you're a brand. How do you expect those people to make that giant leap in terms of reasoning? They can make the leap in terms of their athletic ability, but in reasoning, it becomes a bit more difficult. And there is definitely going to be an issue about what's going to happen when those people are given life bans. You're not giving them a chance.
You have a point on that, but you see, this has been a problem that has been very persistent, and we want it to stop. We cannot eradicate it completely, but if we bring harsher punishment, at least it will serve as a deterrent, because this one, every athlete will know what they are going into. Just like Larry said, You are banning the coaches, the nutritionists, and yes, everybody will wise up that, you know what, I'm taking a very dangerous risk.
They just get
that is
wiser.
the only. That is the
They'll
only way.
just get wiser and cleverer in their trickery.
For me, as you know, I'm a cynic. If you start handing out lifetime bans to athletes for doping, this goes down to the grassroots level. I think we're going to be left with about 90% of athletes on lifetime bans.
Yes. And you know what? I think, I mean, one of the things that have happened is that those bans that were ignored a few years ago, we know that the blood tests that were found and exposed a bit later on, there was a reason they did that. I'm sure somebody looked at it and said, if we get rid of all these guys, we're not going to have a sport.
You're not going to have a
Everybody's
sport.
gone. There is a certain amount, I think, that they just turn a blind eye to and just decide we're not going to deal with it.
Too much.
And so to be so draconian as to start imposing life bans, I think we're on a losing ground. We're on losing ground.
I think harsher punishments will work because it will stop people from doing it. But then, like I said, I don't
think financial penalties, heavy, crippling financial penalties, and as you say, the 2-3 year bans, but allow someone to rehabilitate. I always use the example of Dwayne Chambers. Dwayne Chambers has refused to go away from sport. That's the only thing he knows. That's where his gifting is. And he stood there, he held his hand up and he said, I did dope. I was under pressure, but I want to have a chance. I have a family to feed, and this is the way I know how. And it's given much joy to people by just running.
I think we can separate the sport. The dopers, get on with your athletics, and then the ones that are clean, get on with yours. Because whether you're 16, 17, or 18, everybody must be educated. They need to know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
There's
Exactly.
no ignorance here. You must know what you're getting into. Find out before you take anything. Find out. Ask the board.
I'll take your call. I'll just hold your thoughts there and I'll take a call. Good morning, you're on Loveworld TV. Good morning, you're on Loveworld TV. I think we'll ask you to reduce your set in the background. We've got quite a lot of feedback. Okay, we'll cut that caller there. Do ring us back. When you ring us, make sure that your set is reduced and we're not hearing from your TV set. Yes. So in terms of what you were saying, I'll let you get back to your thoughts,
Okay.
Larry.
Just to clarify, are you suggesting that we have a doping athletics and anti-doping athletics?
Yes, I was speaking to a friend and he said yes. It makes it fairer. You have doping athletics and anti-doping athletics. People get on with it.
Well, that's discrimination at the highest, isn't it? And not allowing people
Because
to have
it
second
feels
chances.
bad if somebody has trained so hard and somebody else hasn't trained that hard and he gets a substance and the person goes past, and after a few years they come back and take it off the other person and then give it to you when there's no ceremony.
Do you know there was
I
some,
don't
there
agree
was
with Larry because in terms of equality, it's the perfect decision.
It is.
but I mean
But then again, let's be honest. Doping equals to higher performance. Higher performance equals to more viewership and more audience and a more exciting sport. Do you want to go watch somebody run 10:30 on 100 meters, or are you going to go watch doping athletes run under 10 seconds?
So what he's saying is if you run under 9 seconds, you should be investigated.
Well, I think one of the main things we need to look at, in line with what you're saying, let's look at what happened in the last World Championships, where we all waited for Usain Bolt and Tyson Gay. The other guy, what's his name? Justin Gatlin. We all waited for Justin Gatlin, and it became such a big thing. It was the match of the race of the whole World Championship, mainly because we wanted to see him race. If Justin Gatlin hadn't been there, if Tyson Gay hadn't come back, we wouldn't have had as much hype as we had. Yeah. We need those guys. Yeah. They know that, okay, Justin Gatlin is going to go back in 2 years again and dope. He's been doing it. He's been caught 3 times. Yeah? Tyson Gay's been caught. He's back in the sport. Asafa Powell's been doped and he's back in the sport. There were the people who were on that 100-meter lineup. All of them, Ekpa, Usain Bolt wasn't the only one who had been caught doping. And we're looking at it thinking, what a great 100-meter final. Are we going to have tortoises along that 100-meter final because we've eradicated everybody.
So,
We
then,
have to think about what we're asking for.
What we're going into here now is, because if you dope, after 2 years you get a ban, after 2 years you come back, that performance level is still in you. That's how I see it.
No.
It would not reduce drastically.
Yes, it would. It would, actually. It would.
Because you're training at the same...
Scientifically, it would. It would, actually.
Scientifically, I think they've proved that it goes
Remember,
out
they
of
keep,
your
they keep
system.
improving every time.
Yes.
They keep improving every
Technology.
year. Technology keeps improving. You do it better and better.
This is why we can't eradicate the game the sport completely of doping. I think there's always going to be, you know, a Salazar's doctor out there somewhere coming up with new ways and new forms to try and, you know, perfect this doping, you know, situation we got going on.
Well, what do we say at home? I mean, obviously, this is a very interesting discussion, and we're talking about eradicating the athletics, the dopers in athletics. What do we do to have a clean athletics? And indeed, do you think Sebco should go? Is he the right man to lead this? And are life bans one of the things that you want to see happen in sports? We've had different views. What are your views? We want to hear what your views are on this subject. So in terms of life bans, are we saying that there's going to be, you guys are advocating for life bans?
Yeah, I am.
I'm against it. You're gonna have no Tyson Gay, no Justin Gatlin, no Dwayne Chambers, no Asafa Powell, and only until you say Bolt.
Exactly, we're going to have new clean talents.
New clean talents.
We have to be realistic with what we're going to get. We're going to get
The new clean talent that is running 100 meters
in
under 11, 12 seconds.
That is much better for us. We know that they're doing the right thing, and the other guys do their own sport. So when the Olympics is going on, this is going on.
So you want the sub 10 athletes running on their own and everybody else running their own race.
I can't speak for you, but I want to go watch the sub 10 athletes. I'm buying ticket to the sub 10 athletes.
Well, guys, on that note, we move on to, of course, the Premier League. We can't go on without going on to the Premier League. We're going to be watching to see, looking at the relegation dogfight. We must talk about Aston Villa. I mean, when you talk about relegation, first person you think of is Aston Villa. What are your thoughts on relegation, Manny? Who's going to be?
Well, I'm picking Aston Villa. I'm picking Norwich, and I'm gonna pick Newcastle to go down. The situation going on with Newcastle is. I'm lost for words, really. I had to describe it because 1 minute they turn up and put a good performance together, beat Liverpool, beat Tottenham, and then other minutes they're just struggling to get a result against Bournemouth.
For me, it's Norwich, Villa, and Sunderland. I'm tempted to put Chelsea there, but.
It's actually funny to speak of relegation battle and mention Chelsea in that same sentence.
The funny thing is that, I mean, since Mourinho left, they haven't lost games as they were losing before. But if you notice, their position has stayed just about the same.
But performance has not improved.
But performance, what they've done is they've just
a
point here, a point there,
yeah,
and occasionally 3 points there, but they've sort of stayed. I mean, they were 15th when Mourinho left.
Moved up.
They've just moved up 14th. And really, the 14th is tight. They could go back to 15th
I think
or
what
16th.
it is whenever they get a point, the teams around them also get a point. And I think Hiddink is not very expressive. He's making sure that Matic and Mikel plays there. And that hinders the attacking side of things. And mind you, Hazard hasn't been playing well. The only player that's been playing really well for Chelsea is Willian. And if the other guys are not working with him, they can't really do anything.
And it's the same thing that was sort of pre-Mourinho, well, during Mourinho's time. It was Willian who seemed to be on his game. Yes. Everybody else seemed to have,
they're smiling
taken
now, so
a break.
I think they're improving slowly.
I think the morale's starting to pick up.
I don't think the morale has come. The problem is with the players. It's not so much because they are not doing a lot at all. They are not doing it, and their performance has dwindled drastically. That's why Hiddink was forced to make a statement that we'll be fighting relegation battle. Yes, he has motivated them. They said, oh, they are happy around, the morale has changed. But if morale has changed, it should be reflecting on the results. The same performance that we see during Mourinho's time is what we are still seeing.
I think I've seen a change in performance.
They're drawing. and there's a more resolve, I think, not to lose. I don't think the resolve is to win and be at the top, but they're determined not to lose. Because if you notice it says they are ready to just draw at the moment, and we've seen more draws than ever. And if they carry on drawing to the end of the season, they might be relegated.
No, I don't think they will be relegated, because I watched Chelsea play Crystal Palace, and that was the old Chelsea.
Yeah.
The way they made sure they were not going to lose that game, and on the counter they beat Palace.
Mind you, Crystal Palace is like, you know, it's a derby, isn't it? It's a West London derby.
Yes,
so they want to make sure.
3-0.
Yeah.
Against Everton. Everton is a good team.
Everton's a good team.
And yes, Everton, for me, Everton won the game because Terry was offside. But then Chelsea made sure they didn't lose. But it speaks volume of where Chelsea is now, because they were celebrating a draw like they had won the league. It speaks a lot of volume of where
they celebrate that draw like Arsenal usually celebrates winning fourth place.
It's very true.
So in terms of Chelsea, I mean, we know that Chelsea realistically are not going to be relegation rivals. I think Gus Hiddink is saying it just to put everyone at ease and to think Chelsea are not a threat, and to make the teams around them sort of relax. But we know that there is no way. I mean, Abramovich, with all his millions, there is no way he's going to let that team be 14th. At the most, I think they'll be top 6. I just don't see them staying below the bottom half of the table.
They're trying to get Pato. And I think to get a new striker would be good for Chelsea, because Diego Costa and all of his problems, and you almost think he's very close to a red card every game. Getting somebody else to make the defenders to think of something completely different would be good for them. I think Chelsea can go on a 10-game winning streak. I think they could do it. If they win tomorrow against Arsenal, who says they can't go 10 games and win everyone?
Yeah, top six is still a reality for them.
It's a reality for me, because I think Manchester United, we're not quite sure. For me, I think Manchester United have been like the West Brom of old, a yo-yo team. They win today, tomorrow you're not sure what's going on. Yeah. I'm quite not sure.
I think they're taking the mantle of Liverpool now. You know, once great, and then they'll sing about the greatness for many years. They
won Liverpool. You know? They won Liverpool, and they were so excited. Yeah, we played really well. That was one shot on target.
They scored 100% goal rate, the shoot rate.
Accuracy was good, but then
we'll talk about Van Gaal. Van Gaal is a very hot subject, and I think we could go on him for the whole day and talk about what's going on in Manchester United under Van Gaal. But let's talk about those relegation people at the bottom. Let's talk about Aston Villa. I mean, there's quite a lot. It's very dire there. Randy Lerner stepped out as chairperson, put in a new chairperson. Do you think that's going to help? Remy Gard hasn't had any
Remy Gard is good. It's good. I think where the problem started was when Randy Lerner wanted to sell. He's been wanting to sell for the past 2-3 years, and then he's just not concentrated on the team. And he just doesn't really care that much. And then you have Jack Grealish, who's a good player, but he's more interested in being out there than actually playing good football.
But this is the point where I start saying, guys, when do players take responsibility for what is going on? Those players are not getting paid £5 an hour like the average person is. Those players are paying good money to be where they are. And we've got players there. We've got Micah Richards, who's the chairperson, who's the captain. Micah Richards was playing in a winning Manchester City side up until 2 years ago. He's played, even when he went to Italy, he played with Roma, a good team. And then you talk about Julian Lescott. Julian Lescott was in the England team. He was in Man City as well. You've got people there who've played at a very high standard. Their striker, Jordan Ayew, he came with a great reputation. His brother's doing wonders. You see glimpses of intelligence and glimpses of greatness in him once in a while. Why are they not performing?
But you have to go back to history. You see, most of the time when players play at good football at big clubs and they come to the lower leagues, they don't perform. And if you look at historical stats, it always shows that way.
Is that because they sort of go there to relax a bit, to take their foot off the gas?
Exactly. We have to even look at these two players you just mentioned. Are they great players? No, they're not. When
Micah Richards
and
Julian Lescott.
Micah Richards at one time for I think 2 seasons or so, He was one of the main players who
Right
were
backs.
the first, yes. He was the first on the England team sheet as well as on the Man City team sheet. Something went wrong somehow, and he was highly rated. He rescued the game 2 weeks ago for them.
Oh, yes, I think he's one player that's showing the desire to want to play. He's really involved.
Well,
but the thing is,
he's the captain.
The thing is, this guy was playing in Man City alongside Jordan Lescott. They had better players around them. In Villa, they don't. And it's showing that these guys are not great footballers. And when you don't have great players around you, it's easy to always
lose a game. But then it's pulling up those guys to a certain level, a certain standard, and making sure that, you know, you can do that too. If you look at a few years ago, West Ham were in a relegation dogfight. And who pulled them out? Carlos Tevez and Javier Mascherano. They are the two guys who were quality in a flailing side.
I wouldn't compare Javier Mascherano to Julian Lescott. I wouldn't compare Michael Richards to Carlos Tevez. These are Argentinians, world-class players.
Yes, but then they were in a very poor side, and because they were used to playing with quality, they were able to bring it out. And we didn't really see the greatness of Carlos Tevez and Javier Mascherano until they went to City and the other one went to Barcelona. But we didn't see that greatness until then.
I'll give you an example. We watched Sacco for Liverpool. Sacco is a decent defender. He tries to G the lads up because he's playing for Liverpool. Take Sacco to Villa, they'll get relegated because he's always full of mistakes. And when he makes a mistake, there's somebody else to cover him up. But then if he goes to Villa, a team that's struggling for relegation, the other guy next to you is also making a mistake. You're also making a mistake. That's just goals all along.
You're going to be exposed.
It's also about the mindset, because when you watch Villa, I watched them last week and I thought, these guys don't even have the mindset. It was their body language. Even as, you know, when they started, with the first kick, you could see their body language was saying we shouldn't be here. And there are people who own the pitch when they are there. They think we should be here. Bournemouth, for one. Bournemouth have a sense of you know, feeling that they need to be there. They know that they're not as good as they're supposed to be, but they feel we're in the Premier League, we're here to stay, we're here to claim our place. And with Villa, it's the body language that tells you self-belief has gone.
The owners sold the soul of the team. You sold Benteke and then you sold the captain, Fabian Delph. That's the spine and the soul of the team. And then you brought some new players. They need a leader. Michael Richards just came. He doesn't have... Yes,
he's trying.
He's doing well. He's doing really well.
For a captain, I think if there was anyone who had to be singled out, I would single out Micah Richards. Because every time, whether he comes off the bench or whether he's playing straight from the start, he tries. Last week, he came off the bench and he really gave his all. But then you can see that the others are just not there. It's the Chelsea kind of situation where you know there's just one player who's playing more than the others, who wants it more. And in our case, we said it's Willian. Willian seems to want it more than anybody else.
I mean, between the two clubs, Chelsea, they've had two different histories. Aston Villa just merely, you know, survived relegation last year. They finished the season off on a low. The morale is different from Chelsea. Chelsea are champions. Chelsea have no excuse. You can't make excuses for what's going on with Chelsea. Aston Villa, yes, they ended the season on a low, started the season on a low. They've had 3 managers in a year. When you're constantly changing your boss, you're not used to one system of playing.
Well, I have to make an argument for Remy Gard. I think Remy Gard picked up a team that wasn't doing well because all along I said...
You can't blame Remy Gard.
All along I said Tim Sherwood is decent, but I don't think he's a manager. I think I don't think he's ready for it because it was too much for him.
He saved them from relegation last year.
And then when they started the next season,
he knew. He said he knew that they were not going to do it. They're not going to make it. He said he knew that they had just about made it. More work needed to be done with the team, and he was there last week. I watched him on the Villa Leicester match, and he was talking about he was asked about why do you think they're having this dire form? And he said he knew it because they were just not good enough. Now let's talk about the next team, Sunderland. They've brought Big Sam in to try and sort it out. Do you think he'll get them out?
Yeah.
And will Jermaine Defoe be enough to get them out?
2 men. Defoe, goal scorer machine. And Sam Allardyce, he's never been relegated, and I think this won't be his first. That's why I've taken him out.
It goes back to the Villa argument.
He's getting relegated.
He's getting relegated.
I look at Sunderland. Who is going to supply the goals or the balls to Defoe? There's nobody in the middle of the park. And I watched them against...
Defoe will have to go and get them himself. He has to work
and
harder than before.
I watched them against Tottenham. When they were losing 2-1, he went to a back 5 or a back 3. I'm thinking, well, how exactly is this going to work? Are you trying to get 3 points or you're trying to stop them from scoring more goals? And they eventually lost 4-1. What is that? I think it's getting relegated. Not because it's a bad coach. The team, the players are just not good enough.
They are not good enough. And one thing is that Defoe is good, but he relies on service. And there's nobody
Well,
there
he has to change his game. I think he has to up his game.
He's at that age, in his late 30s, he can't change his game at his age.
It's difficult for him.
At his age, he can't change his game. He's in his last couple of seasons before he retires.
Let's talk about
He's
Swansea.
made in his way.
Swansea have just appointed a new head coach after declaring that Alan Curtis will be the coach for the whole year. I didn't understand the dynamics of that. You've got someone who's going to be the coach. You say you put it out and say, well, you have it for the whole year. Then out of the blue, you announce that you have a new head coach. I mean, how does that work in terms of dynamics, in terms of who has the power in the dressing room?
The guy that's come in has the power because they realize Alan Curtis hasn't worked with the first team for quite a while. Like he has not been a Premier League manager. Yeah. This guy is coming from, he has a pedigree.
So what prompted them to say that they were going to keep him on?
I think they were too quick.
That is football. Football, things changes all the time. And football is more dynamic. You know, we cannot take as we are here, something new might come. And now the club managers, owners, nobody can be trusted because they just take decisions all the time. That is it.
And then in terms of, I mean, if we go back to the Swansea, I think, have never been the same since Michael Laudrup left, I think. We've just gone down. Gary Monk came, lifted them up temporarily, and it looked like, you know, he was one of the new English managers. You know how they get jittery and excited, oh my God, we've got a new kid on the block, and then he's soon fizzled out, and now he's out of a job. What do we see happening to Swansea?
Swansea, they have a team, but I have a problem with them selling Shelby, though. Yeah. You can't sell Shelby to another team that you're trying to go above.
A rival.
You shouldn't do that, and there's a talk of trying to sell you to Sunderland. If IU goes to Sunderland, I might as well stop watching football because he wants to get relegated because he's fighting with Swansea. Swansea, the problem is they can't score goals.
If IU goes to Sunderland, they won't get relegated.
I think Sunderland is, for me, I think Sunderland is dead and gone already. Sunderland the same way with Villa because I just can't see them scoring goals. I can't see. Swansea can just about score goals, but there's a problem with Gomez. Gomez, I don't know, he's full of surprises. You expect him to score a goal and he won't score a goal, and that's really the problem.
But then that's where I think, you know, you have quality players who are just not upping their game.
I think
because Gomez is a good player, and really he shouldn't be where the team shouldn't be where they're at with Gomez.
I agree with you. The team, the Swansea squad, they definitely shouldn't be where they are. Swansea started off the season quite bright. I mean, Swansea started Chelsea's worries.
Oh yes, yes. Montero made what's his name? Ivanovic not want to play football.
And that's the team that has Jordan Ayew as Andrew.
I think they will bounce back.
I just don't understand. They were scoring goals for fun, and then all of a sudden, you know, just
they won the game when the new coach came in against Watford, and I think that was a big 3 points for them. Yeah, it was a huge one, and they have a good team. I think they will come back. There's Sigurdsson, there's Key, there's Ayew, there's Montero, there's Ashley Williams. They still have the core of their team, and I think they will do it.
They'll bounce back.
Let's talk about Bournemouth.
Bournemouth, that's my team. I really do like.
Oh, you moved from Arsenal.
I must say I like Bournemouth as well. I want them to do well. They have a very nice story. It's a romantic story. Rags to riches. A few years ago, they were about to be relegated. They've come to the top. I remember at the beginning of the year, they had a feature about them and their journey, and I sat there and watched almost in tears, thinking, what a beautiful story. And it would be sad to end it on a relegation.
I think even if they do get relegated,
They are not going to get.
They actually put in a good fight.
On
no,
that.
I say even if they do get relegated, because they feel like they're there. We are with these people. We're not ashamed to be here. We're not afraid of anybody. We're going to
They've
challenge.
put themselves about, haven't they?
Really
Yes.
well.
They are playing really well, so we shouldn't even discuss about relegation. I'm very happy with their performance, looking at where they are coming from and their improvement. I'm very happy with their game. I know they will go far. They are not going to be relegated, but they will stay. They'll pose a bit of challenge maybe next season.
Well, let's quickly talk about, I mean, we've got just a few minutes left before we close it. It's been so much fun. We need to talk about the Chelsea-Arsenal game next week.
Tomorrow.
Sunday. Tomorrow is Sunday,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
Yes,
tomorrow.
Let's call it very quickly. Stephen, what are your thoughts on that game?
Arsenal will win.
Do you think Chelsea, I mean, it's Arsenal. It's Arsenal. Chelsea might draw everything they have in them. They've been poor lately. They haven't been doing what they're supposed to be doing. And there's a chance that Chelsea will do everything they can.
Mentally, Chelsea is not up to the game, right? And their performance even shows. It's obvious that Arsenal will win. Arsenal is a better side, and Chelsea always have an advantage over Arsenal when Mourinho is there.
And very quickly, just the score. Just tell me what the score is.
I think if Arsenal start well, Arsenal win. If not, that draw.
Score, draw.
2-2, I think.
2-2. And Manny?
I think Chelsea will avoid the defeat. Arsenal can't beat Chelsea. It's just something about it. I think Chelsea will avoid the defeat. They will draw or win.
On that note, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll, of course, be chewing the fat on that game next week. So much to talk about. I'm sure it's going to be an exciting game. Gentlemen, thank you so much for an exciting time today. And viewers at home, thank you for tuning in and joining us. We see you again next week when we look at the final. Next week, the finals of the Australian Open will be upon us, so we'll know who's definitely made it to the final. We'll be talking about that, as well as talking about FIFA. It's hotting up in FIFA. We've heard recently that, you know, UEFA are not going to be appointing anyone, Platini, until the court verify what they've said about Platini. And we'll obviously be talking to you about Chelsea. So thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned to Loveworld TV. God bless you. See you next week.